Today is a very special one for me, and probably the video that I should have made first. This is my 1998 Lotus Elise Series 1. Back in 1995, when the Elise was first shown, I instantly fell in love with it. I was just becoming a teenager, and it was instantly cemented as one of my most favourite cars of all time. I promised myself, and anyone else that would listen, that I would own one of these one day. And here we are. It was on my 25th birthday when I went out to look at actually something quite a lot more affordable than this, at roughly half the price, when I saw it sitting on the forecourt. There it was, in new aluminium silver with red leather interior, staring at me, a Lotus Elise S1. I knew immediately when the salesman asked me if I wanted to test drive it that really he was asking if I wanted to buy it. I knew if I took it out that I would immediately have to have it. And here we are today. It might not look like the same car, but I can assure you this is that same silver Elise. I loved the reviews it was getting, both on TV and in magazines. I loved the classic styling penned by Julian Thompson, evoking some of my most favourite cars of all time. Ferrari's 246 Dino, the Ford GT40, and of course that unmistakably Lotus front end, taking lots of inspiration from Lotus's 23 and these lights from the Europa. But don't think it's all style over substance. This opening at the front is designed to pull air in through the horizontally mounted radiator and out through the nostrils on the top of the bonnet and up here over this beautifully sculpted curved windscreen that evokes the Le Mans Group C racers. Also down the side of the car, door scoops feeding air into the vents at the back. They allow the engine to breathe, and round the back of the car we have a diffuser, the final piece to an almost completely flat floor, helping the airflow under the car and the aerodynamics. Move round to the back and we have these fantastic twin lights either side, and this twin exhaust echoing the styling along the back of the car. This was the first car that Lotus ever built that had model specific front and rear lights, though they did still borrow from other cars, such as this high level brake light which comes from Saab, the number plate lights up here from a Rolls-Royce, and well, I guess a caravan or a trailer or something like that sacrificed these hella fog lights and reversing lights below these grills. These grills are possibly one of the few things on the car that is a little bit substance over style. I'm not really sure if they're supposed to protect the lenses behind them or not, but there's nothing but bodywork behind them. There's no cooling effect or anything like that, although some people do cut them out to add to the exhaust cooling. Well, hats off to 13-year-old me for selecting a car that's so fun to drive. Back when I fell in love with this car, who knew it would be so fantastic to drive? It's the perfect embodiment of Lotus's performance through lightweight philosophy. It becomes more about maintaining momentum than it does out-and-out raw pace. But if you still want to win those traffic light Grand Prix, then back in its day, when it was released, it was one of, if not the fastest car to 30 miles an hour. It did not to 30 in 1.6 seconds, making it faster even than a McLaren F1. 60 came along in about 5.5, and it would keep on trundling up to about 125 miles an hour. Certainly those figures aren't going to keep up with a supercar or even a modern day hot hatch, but it's in the corners where it really starts to shine. The theatre continues throughout the car, corner after corner, as you feel the steering weight up and that playful rear end just ever so slightly freeing itself, and the noise of that 4-pot Rover engine with the manifold only about 18 inches behind my head. It's clear that the engine is behind you. It adds to that theatre again. It feels like you're in a racing car. It rattles and shakes, but it's not overly harsh. The suspension is double wishbone all round, originally with Kone dampers, though only the lowest mileage cars will have those now, and realistically I don't think you want them. This car, along with many others, have taken the factory recommended route of fitting Series 2 Bilsteins with eye-back coilovers. They're slightly stiffer than the standard, and they lower the car by about 10, maybe 15 millimeters, which help to add to making that driving experience, that handling, even better than it was when they were fresh. Bushings etc. are all very simple, making maintenance on the suspension pretty easy. Parts availability is fantastic for all suspension components, and there are aftermarket available if you don't want to go with those Bilsteins. It's almost as if 13-year-old me had some sort of inside knowledge. How was I to know this would be such a fantastic car to drive, and that once I finally bought one, I wouldn't ever want to let it go. I adore this car. It rewards me every single time I get in and drive it. There's nothing like it. Here we are on a beautiful autumn day. It's perhaps not the warmest day in the world, but I can think of nothing better. Well, maybe dry roads would be a slight improvement, but I can think of nothing better than taking this car out for a blast. Visceral, that's the word to describe this car. Everything absolutely there at your fingertips. Everything feeling exactly the way you want it to feel. And it just keeps on begging you to drive it more and more. And of course you can combine all of that with an open top. The Elise, of course, being designed as a convertible from the offset, using that extruded aluminium chassis that you're sitting inside of. It's stiff, it's beautiful, and it's safe. It's a small car too. It's easy to see once you get inside. Pull alongside a modern SUV and you'll be incredibly surprised at how small this car really is. It sits low on the road and you sit low in the car, and those diminutive proportions just help on narrow roads. They help to boost the confidence. You always know where the car is. It's not a big car, and that shows if you have a passenger. If you're not friendly with them, things could get awkward. This windscreen mirror sits very slightly off centre, obscuring their view too. Perfect for the driver, but maybe not so much for the passenger. All the controls are exactly where you want them to be. Coming from a modern hot hatch or something like that, the wheel might feel quite small, but once you get going, it's absolutely perfect, despite that lack of power steering or any other form of assistance. The pedals too are perfectly distanced from one another, and are extruded aluminium, continuing the design language from the chassis itself. The theatre of the Elise continues as you open the door. You drop into the chassis over these large, high sills. You sit in the chassis. It feels like you're in a race car. Turn that old Vauxhall key and Rover's K-Series bursts into life. It's clear that the engine is right behind your ears, right from the offset. It's at that point that the only true weakness of the car really shows itself, well, in standard form anyway. The gear shift is not the sharpest tool in the box. It could be like stirring porridge if the cables aren't adjusted properly. This car has some modifications, including aftermarket gear cables, some improved bearings, and a Prodimix shifter. And I highly recommend all of those components to increase the feel that you get when changing gear. Steering is light and precise, despite the fact that there's no assistance there at all. It's just you and a steering rack. That steering rack originates from a single-seater race car, albeit they've shifted the connection from the bottom of the column to make it off-centre so that the car can be either right or left-hand drive. It's fairly heavy if you're trying to park the car, but nothing too major. And as you move on, the steering gets lighter, but it's never so light that you can't feel it. This car always communicates with you. It's so communicative. You know exactly where that front end is and what it's doing. You know exactly when you can turn in. You know exactly where the nose is going to be. It's absolutely sublime. Rover's K-Series was a great choice by Lotus. Lotus chose it because it's a lightweight engine. I think something like 95 or 100 kilos all in. And it sounds good too for a 4-cylinder engine. In this 1.8 litre guise, it produces 118 horsepower, well, in a standard car at least. That comes along with 165 newton meters of torque. That torque comes in at only 3,000 RPM, something that I think really suits the sporty nature of this car. It's mounted here at midship, I guess much like the MGF, but unlike the MGF, Lotus were heading for an uncompromised driving experience. With the engine sitting in midship, the weight distribution is roughly 60-40, that is 60 to the rear. That helps the car to pivot in the corners. You feel that weight transfer on the brakes. It helps with the handling of the car. And I guess that brings us neatly onto head gasket failures. No video about any car with a Rover K Series is complete without talking about head gaskets. And really what I'm going to tell you today is it's not as big a problem as maybe you'd think. A couple of aftermarket parts, such as a remote thermostat kit, and even just gently warming the car up to temperature. Remembering, for example, that the water maybe takes twice as long as the oil does to get to temperature, and you're good. Rebuilds aren't particularly expensive either, and for the reward that you get driving the car, I'm not entirely sure you can complain all that much. Let's talk about the feel you get from the car a little bit more. So we've spoke about the handling. Let's talk about everything else. Everything's perfectly placed, and the brakes are the brakes are one of those things that really adds to the experience of this car. There's no brake servo, there's no assistance at all, there's not even any ABS. It's just your foot and the hydraulics. This car is an early car with MMC brakes, metal matrix composite as they called them, an aluminium brake disc essentially. They're incredibly lightweight and they brake using adhesion friction, transferring material from the pads to the disc itself. That means that the discs barely wear. This car sits on its original brake discs from 1998 with nearly 80,000 miles on the clock. The same set of brake discs it left the factory with. The pads themselves are a special pad specifically designed to work with those discs. The discs are incredibly hard. They need diamond-tipped bits to skim them, if indeed you ever need to skim them. Of course, they're unavailable now, and later cars didn't use them, adding to the weight, which is unfortunate, as of course, this is unsprung weight that we're talking about. It shouldn't take me that long to talk about equipment. There isn't really all that much. The windows go up and down if I turn this handle on the door, as I'm sure you would expect, and if you want to adjust the mirrors, you have to roll the window down and stick your hand out. I have a CD player in here, although not all cars came with it as standard, and a pair of speakers just behind the seats. The seats are supportive, if not that comfortable. They're not that tiring on a long journey, perhaps because they support you so well. The driver's seat adjusts for leg reach forward and backwards and has a lumbar bump that gives you some additional lower back support. But other than that, it's a fixed seat. The passenger seat is completely fixed. It doesn't move in any way at all. The passenger side has an aluminium footrest that's essentially velcroed to the carpet and can be removed if you have someone with longer legs. And that's it really for equipment, but what else do you need? This isn't necessarily a car that you're going to want to take out every single day. It's not a car that you're going to want to take to work. It's not a car that you want to be out in the winter in. I'm not even sure it's a car you want to be out on a wet road on. You need to give it a little bit of respect if you do find yourself out in a shower. But then I guess the choice of tyres and all those other aspects of the car are going to put you off using it in the wet anyway. If nothing else, the slightly leaky soft top might put you off too. Performance isn't blistering, as I'm sure you'd expect from a 1.8 litre car, but that lack of weight means that maintaining momentum through the corners is an absolute joy. It's a delight to drive this car. It's a delight to listen to what the chassis wants to tell you, to feel every single thing as you go along the roads, but without it being too harsh. It's not rattling your bones to bits. It's certainly by no means a soft car, and absolutely by modern standards. There's nothing complex going on in the suspension, perhaps because there isn't that much weight for the car to move around in the first place. The build quality is more or less what you'd expect. It's actually not that badly put together, and most of the parts and technologies are quite simple, meaning that repairs and the like are not really too much of an issue. It is a noisy car, but then I guess that also adds to the theatre. The car almost becoming its own perfect brief simply by Lotus not having the money to develop things that you would ordinarily expect in a car. The car originally wasn't supposed to have a roof. It wasn't even supposed to have any doors, and yet both of those things feature on the final car. It's no secret that Lotus weren't exactly flush with cash when they were developing this car. They were still making the Elan M100, a front-wheel drive convertible. I think the Esprit was still in production, and it wasn't that long before that the 4-seat GT, the Excel, with origins going right back into the 70s, was in production too. At the time, this was heralded as the car that saved Lotus, and part of that was due to them being able to produce a car that could do what this does so well with such a little budget. So what about the practicalities of the car? Well, as you can imagine, it's pretty compromised to the driving experience, which really means that in terms of practicalities, I'm not really sure I can give it that many points. There's a small boot behind the engine, which you can get a couple of bags in for a weekend, and of course the passenger footwell can come in handy as well. All that being said, I take this car camping every year. I go with my daughter, we head across to the west coast of Scotland, pitch our tent, take a couple of seats and a little stove, and have a perfectly enjoyable weekend. Pick up some fantastic roads on the way too, and she loves it. And it's got the right amount of performance right there when you need it and on tap. You don't have to work the car too hard to access the performance that it has on offer, but it's great when you do. With peak torque coming in low in the rev range, it pulls really well right from the beginning. It does get a little bit asthmatic towards the top end of the rev range, but that's not too much of an issue. And for road speeds, it's absolutely perfect. The sensation of speed is the Elise's real, true secret sauce. Few things handle better, few things feel as communicative as an Elise out on the road. It's a sublime experience, and one that you'll struggle to replicate. Sure, you get the odd rattle and clank from the fact that you're sitting inside what is essentially an aluminium bathtub, but those all, to me, just adds to that sensation of speed. The car tracks well along the road too. It doesn't pull you off in different directions. It complements the surface of the road. It doesn't want to throw you in different directions. It's always predictable. And if that back end does break a little bit loose, it does it, well, at least initially, it does it with a little bit of grace. Okay, so you are heavily weighted towards the rear, which does mean if it goes too far, it's quite hard to get back. But the beauty again of the Elise is that with the amount of traction that it puts down, with the grip that you get on the road, you should never really be in those situations. That doesn't mean it doesn't reward on the road. It's still sublime. Come into a corner, a tight corner, and just play with the car as you exit the curve. So what do you think? If you want one of the finest handling cars of all time, that's still relatively affordable, I think it's hard to go wrong. It's a beautiful looking car with ageless design. When you get it out on a road like this, it just begs you to drive it harder and harder. Is the Elise a car for you? Well, if you're happy with a car that compromises completely towards the driving experience, with the noise, the theatre of getting in, the shape of the cabin and that curvy windscreen, everything simply focused towards the driver, then this is a car for you. Considering the experience you get and considering how important it is in the modern car industry, I think they're absurdly cheap still, and I guess a large part of that is Lotus managing to do so much with so little in the first place. If you would like an Elise, let me know in the comments, and while you're at it, drop me a like and a subscribe too. If you want this Elise, I'm sorry, it's not for sale.